Welcome to another edition of the Kauffman Corner podcast. With you for the first time, shall I say? Kind of. David Lesky's been here before, but not as a permanent host. He's the publisher of Inside the Crown newsletter, Royals newsletter. You can check that out. A must read if you're a Royals fan. Les Norman is with us, former Royals outfielder, host of Breaking the Norm on Sports Radio 810 WHB, author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. We have a lot to get to today here in the Kauffman Corner. We're going to take our pulse, I guess you'd say, early reaction to the 2-4 start of the Royals. How long do you stick with MJ Melendez as his struggles, even with a new swing, has carried over? Looking forward to talking to Les about that swing. How long does Hunter Renfroe have in his spot? Is the Torpedo Bat a real thing? Is this something that we're all going to be swinging at a softball field near you? Slow start for the AL Central, or is it just a bad division as it turns out? What's the ceiling for Kris Bubic? Expectations for this homestand. It's coming up right now here on the Kauffman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kauffman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kauffman Corner is hosted by David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro. David Lesky is an accomplished author and the publisher of the Inside the Crown Royals baseball newsletter. Les Norman is a former Royals outfielder. He's the host of Breakin the Norm with Les Norman on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as the author of Teaching the Tools of Hitting. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kauffman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. Now, here are your hosts, David Lesky, Les Norman, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it, and welcome everybody to our now second edition each week of the Kauffman Corner podcast. David Lesky and Les Norman with you. David, you've seen fill in the past. Great to be working with David, and of course, Les. You hear on Sports Radio 810 WHB, former Royal, and looking forward to breaking down a lot of things and a lot of stuff on the plate. Specifically, David, you can sit on the bench for a little bit. A lot of less stuff here. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'll hang out.
Yeah, do want to hear I can't wait for the Torpedo Bat. I want to hear this for a guy who's does so much with the work of hitting. But let's just start with this, David. I'll ask you: 2-4 start. What are we? We're nearing the end of the second quarter, I think, or we're at halftime. What are we? We're just past halftime. We're into the third quarter of the first Chiefs game. Yeah. As far as the season goes. So no reason to panic. Still time for Patrick Mahomes to get things going if this were a football game. But for the Royals, 2-4, it is kind of a daunting schedule. Where's your thoughts on where they've begun so far?
Yeah, tough schedule to start the season. They have a lot of good teams to play. It in a lot of ways, this feels like last year. They were 2-4. They, oddly enough, came off a walk-off loss in their sixth game, came home for a 7-game homestand. They won all 7. Now, they're not going to get the White Sox and the early season 24 Astros, which I believe that was the second series in that homestand. So not quite as optimistic they're going to win 7 in a row. Of course, at this time last year, I didn't think they were going to win 7 in a row either. So at this point, to this moment, this is just one of the ups and downs in a long season. It just happens to be the first part of the season, the only part of the season we know. That said, as we talked about it on Sunday night, the issues that people thought would plague the Royals are plaguing the Royals. So that's a fair reason to be concerned, because everything we thought might be a problem has been a problem so far. In addition to, we can get into this a little bit, but in addition to, the middle of the lineup hasn't hit. And I mean, really, we can talk about Melendez and Renfroe and Isbell and whoever we want all day long. If Witt, Pasquantino, and Perez don't hit, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't. And so, long season, 6 games. I'm not ready to change my evaluation on the Royals just yet. Maybe ask me again in a week. But as of right now, I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to be concerned. But at least we need to keep an eye on the concern meter, I feel like.
Yeah, I would, and I do think the schedule is the one thing, and the only reason. Look, they're a run at the right time away from being 3-3, which is where I'd like them to be right now, based upon the caliber of schedule that they do face. Cleveland, Milwaukee are both teams that were in the playoffs last year, and David mentioned it. Baltimore next, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York, Detroit. Those are all teams that think that they've got a good chance to be in the playoffs, and probably most of those teams to start will be in the playoffs. So, to me, I think you just want to stay in the fight right now, right? Don't blow the season here in the beginning. Is there anything you see that's cause for concern? Is there anything, to David's point about the middle of the lineup not hitting yet, that you say, hey, this is a reason to be optimistic? What's your early reaction?
Well, I'm not optimistic and I'm not pessimistic right now. I'm with David in the sense that it's still early. I mean, it's every team right now, as we're doing this podcast, is 2-4. I mean, they're right smack in the middle of nothingness. I mean, there's nothing exciting of any team that comes up except maybe Class A throwing up and in and hitting Jonathan Indy in the head. So there's not a whole lot to write home about. I mean, there is time. For me, I would rather be exposed early, and I would rather have a tough schedule early and have all those weaknesses exposed, so you have ample time to fix them. Because if you're 14-1, 15-2, something like that, and you get off to this really hot start, but you haven't had your guys go through a difficult stretch yet where the pitching is just so-so, and then the bullpen blows up, and then the hitting, that middle of the order isn't hitting. Well, then now you've got all these compounded problems, and you see the confidence of this big lead start to wane, and then everybody catches up to you. So, look, I'd rather drive my car looking through the windshield than looking through the rearview mirror, or I'd rather be chasing somebody trying to get better at that time. So I'm not panicked yet. I'd rather see some things get exposed, so then we're at a point where we know what to fix. Now, I'm not talking about just the MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe thing. I know we're going to talk about that, so I'll wait there. And I think part of that is the Royals' fault. But it's not necessarily a time to panic yet. Changes definitely have to be made, and not just because they're 2-4, but because in the offseason there wasn't enough done. Not that they could have, but there just wasn't enough done quite yet. So I'm ready to just wait and see.
Is it time to start panicking about MJ Melendez? Let's start with you on that one, because of, he did rework the swing. I don't know, how long does it take to make a new swing, your swing, right? How long is it not new and it's just your swing? Like, what kind of patience? We saw Alex Gordon break down a swing in the offseason, and he hit the ground running, right? And just took off. And so I think there was a lot of people that expected, okay, this is Alex Gordon 2.0. 6 games only, but 6 strikeouts already in those 6 games. Where do we sit on the optimism meter of MJ Melendez and the new swing being the answer?
Well, it's a great question, and this is I'm not going to apologize for this, but I'm getting ready to go nerd on you on the hitting side. I mean, that's what I wrote the book about, right? So I knew during spring training that they had tinkered with his swing, and when you say tinker, he didn't need a tinker. He needed a complete blow the whole thing up and rebuild the whole thing. And so to throw him right into the starting lineup, right away, okay, you're going to be the guy. I mean, that's tough. Now, they didn't have any options. I mean, one of my favorite things about you, Soren, is if not, then who? I love that question that you've always asked. And it challenges those of us now that I'm in the media too, it challenges us to really find your why behind it. You got to have it. You got to have an argument. You got to have something intellectual to talk about. So when I see what they did, I get that they're talking about keeping the barrel in the zone. That's what George Brett taught me in spring training in order to be able to compete. And because I followed that at the beginning of spring training, I ended up making that team in '96. If I wouldn't have had that advice and nobody helped me, I would have been lost. So they're trying to help him, but here's the problem. Of all the things that they're trying to fix, if you watch the swing in these first few games, these 13 at-bats that he's had, the alarming things are, number one, he's still striking out 50% of the time. Again, it's early. I mean, Rafael Devers just signed this big contract. He's had 19 at-bats or something, and he struck out 15 times. I mean, that's crazy, but that's not, that's probably not going to be him. The problem with him is if you watch MJ Melendez swing, when, say, it's an outside fastball, he misses it by a foot, even if it's that level, because his back foot is sliding backwards toward the first base dugout. And even on an inside pitch, if you get that and you time it well, you're going to hook it foul because he's so top hand heavy. If you get the outside corner and just flick it, you're only going to foul it off or you're going to break your bat, which he's done a couple times already. The other thing, and here's the most important thing, is that when you take a swing and your head is moving forward or to the side as you swing, the ball does not look the same and you don't have enough time. You have less than a second to figure out location, spin, speed, all of those things. And he's just not able to do that. And if what we're seeing early on is the fix that the Royals did for MJ Melendez, I just don't see it working at all. And I'll end the point with this. In the first game that MJ Melendez played, as we were listening to the broadcast, Ryan Lefebvre was talking about what MJ Melendez said. And he said that he realizes that he's been given more opportunities than he probably should have been given. And so now he needs to capitalize on that. So MJ Melendez feels the pressure. There's a huge mental issue going with him. Like, if I don't perform, I know that I'm out of here, and who knows if any other team's going to take him. But the bottom line is his back foot moves too much, his head moves way too much, and his strikeout rate's too high. So I'm hoping, for the Royals' sake and for his sake, he can salvage his career. But if this keeps up in a short time, he's going to end up being done.
I think a couple of things here. Tyler, building off what you said about if not him, then who? I've always said, like, you need to have that answer if you're going to make a change until your entire fan base says anybody. And that's what Tyler's getting at here. I'm at the point where I want anyone else besides MJ Melendez. And I like this one as well. Terry says, I think we've seen the back of MJ's card, right? After a couple of years, you are what the back of your baseball card says you are. And I think that's where we're getting with MJ Melendez. This is the last best chance for him to turn things around. There's also, some frustration and people like that. Matt says this was the worst outfield in baseball last year, and JJ didn't do anything to make it better. Same outfield to start the year. Forget the results. The optics are awful. They are, but it's only 6 games. Again, that's why we're asking this question on MJ Melendez. I'm not encouraged after I listened to Les break down the swing, David. It looks like, okay, we've taken some old problems. Maybe we've solved some of them, but we've created some new ones. And, it's still a problem. And I don't know about you, but I spoke with some folks in the offseason, and nobody said, like, well, this sucks, it's not going to work. But when I said, hey, new swing, because there was genuine optimism amongst Royals fans. I mean, we've seen the power potential that's there, that, oh, okay. And I pointed towards Alex Gordon. But I got kind of, yeah, we'll see. It was kind of what I felt the reaction was from within the organization. Again, nobody said it's not going to work, or everybody appreciated the work he was putting in. But the vibe I got was that I didn't hear overwhelming optimism. What do you think the expectations are? And is he actually meeting what the expectations are right now?
Yeah, I mean, the problem that many problems. One of the problems that I see is the swing is starting to revert back a little bit. Not fully. He's a little more open than he was in spring training, but not as open as he was before. He's the big thing, and I said this the other day, unless you brought this up about his footwork, his bottom half is just stiff. The only movement is bad movement. There's not good movement in that lower half. And if you go back to that, it's an Instagram video and it's totally staged. He gets to choose what gets put out there. The bottom half was still not fully right, but it was moving much better. And you're right. The way that he's set up, the way that this swing has evolved over the last 8 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever it is from the start of spring training, is in the wrong direction. And we talked about this before, Soren. When guys struggle, do they revert back? Do they go back to what's comfortable? I think they mentioned on the broadcast yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago.
Michael Lewis, to your point, not to interrupt you, but Michael Lewis did that great follow-up piece in the New Yorker, I think it was, where he kind of revisited Mark Teahen after he wrote Moneyball, and he revisited Mark Teahen and talked about that, 300 at bats where Teahen turned on the ball, but when the struggles come around, you revert back to what you know.
Right. What you've done forever.
Yeah. And that's what it sounds like you're saying you're seeing with MJ Melendez.
A little bit. I mean, not fully. Again, he's still got a lot of some of the components of the revamped stance and swing, but it's just not there. It's not working. And, let's mention the mental side. At some point, you almost have to send the guy to AAA just to not have to see the batting average and the strikeouts and all that. And I don't know. I look at MJ Melendez, Michael Garcia, Vinny Pasquantino, those three, and I might be missing somebody, but those three are the guys who you want to talk about some swag on the team. Those three are the guys that have some swag. And MJ Melendez looks like he's lost all of it, every last bit of it. Michael Garcia, to his credit or fault last year when he struggled, it didn't feel like it went away. There was no point when I thought, man, Michael Garcia his confidence is shot. It looks like Melendez's confidence is shot. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to say it is because I hate to play psychiatrist, but the view of him is that, hey, and maybe it is the fact that he knows he's on his last chance or second to last chance or whatever, and he's pressing and concerned and all that. But whatever it is, it would do him some good to go and hopefully it would actually happen this way. But it would do him some good to go down to AAA and hit 10 home runs in a month. Yeah. And just remember, hey, I can hit the baseball and I can hit it far, because the reality is, and the gap between his floor and his ceiling is massive, but the ceiling is really high with MJ Melendez. A lot of guys have high ceilings and never get close to them. So I'm not saying he's going to get there, but there is a difference maker hitter inside of him somewhere. We may never see it, but I think he needs to get a little bit of that mojo back, which is a very technical term.
You like him setting him down, Les? You think that's probably ultimately where this is headed? I mean, certainly if it continues, I think, the Royals are no longer a ball club that the last stage of development is the big leagues. They're expected to compete and win now. And so if you're not helping the ball club, I think just for the psyche and mindset of where the club and organization is, he has to go down from that standpoint. You can't reward this, but they're beyond that, or at least they should be beyond that when it comes to the outfield. I mean, do you think a trip to the minors would be a good one?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I blame the Royals. I mean, they've kept him up too long, and they haven't given him an opportunity to grow mentally, to work through the toughness. And, David, you were also talking about like his lower half being stiff. There was an at-bat he had 2 games ago where they worked him outside, and they threw him a fastball in, and it was this half swing, like, there's no way I would have got to that. I probably should have taken it. Those are the kind of at-bats where that their brain is gone. They have no confidence. Their body's tight. And if you were to pick up a golf club or a wiffle ball bat even, and you gripped it as tight as you could, and you swung the bat, you hear but then if you just relaxed and went easy and flipped it through there when your muscles were relaxed, you'd hear it would be completely different. Your hands are quicker when you can react. When you're not confident, you're tight. And when you're tight, you're not quick. You're thinking. And so the Royals should have sent him down a long time ago to have this happen. And so they kept him. They kept going with him and kept going with him. And they just, for some reason, thought it would change. And it's only gotten worse and worse. A few weeks ago, I interviewed Mark Tian, catching up with him a little bit. And we talked about that specifically, about the time that they sent him down. And in that same season, he came back and was the Royals Player of the Month for September. I mean, he completely went off. Billy Butler had to go down for a little bit of time before he came up, and he won a batting title. And so they're not doing MJ Melendez any favors, and the longer they keep him, they're going to crush the kid's spirit. I mean, he's a big boy. They're making good money, okay? I mean, it's not, he's not a kid, but if you really expect him to perform and you really have his best interest and you want him to help your ball club, then you need to do right by him and send him down, let him get his mind right, let him get his confidence and his swing back, and then call him back up and say, we're not even looking at your average. I would rather look at my batting average after I just got called up, because there's validation. I haven't had any at bats. So when I'm there at the beginning of the season and I'm playing every day and I'm hitting 0.77, you're right, David. I'm looking at the scoreboard. Jamie Quirk once said, if you're looking at the scoreboard, you got something to worry about. MJ Melendez has something to worry about.
Yeah, no doubt. I love what Alex said. Maybe just a lesson in Les's basement. Don't send him down, send him to Les. That could be what we need. Listen, if your parking lot is making a bad first impression, you need our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If you need help with your insurance, of course, it's our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's dive into the part. Less, if not him, then who? How do you, if you send MJ Melendez down? What is the answer to replacing him?
Don't ask me the favorite question that I have of you. Dang it, that's supposed to be your question.
All right.
Yeah, it's a tough call because the answer right now is not the world's minor leaguers. That's not it, because it's kind of what you're dealing with, a level of a minor leaguer who's struggling, who has shown signs of brilliance and flashes of that offensively. And so this frustrates me because this should have been done in the offseason. And I also interviewed JJ Picollo about a month and a half ago, and he said that we were in some deals in the offseason. They just can't compete with some of these guys that got signed to other places. And so I understand that. I understand the small market side, that you can't get the big names, but I'm hoping that the front office right now has got stuff in line. They're trying to trade guys. So, look, you guys have this part probably a lot better than I do, but I'm a big picture. I'm spend the money, get out of it. I would like to see a guy like a Jarren Duran. I'm looking at my notes over here. I would love to see a guy like that. My dream, I've loved Kyle Tucker since he came to the big leagues. And then in 2021-ish, when he started going off and hitting home runs, I understand it was in Houston, but still, and this guy's starting with the Cubs right now. He's just absolutely going off. He's a great right fielder, which is what we need. He can throw guys out. He's got a great swing. His barrel's in the zone. Now he's making a lot of money. I understand that. But at what point are the Royals going to spend the money for a guy like that? Because we keep having these experiments. We sign these veterans to these contracts and we bring these minor league guys up, and it's just the same thing. Center field's in the middle, and then it just slopes down to the corner outfielders based on production. And so, I'm even to the point where I'm even thinking, well, is Alex Verdugo an option after his troubles? And he's running himself slowly out of baseball. So I like a Jarren Duran if you could trade him. I like a Kyle Tucker, who after this year is a free agent again. It's guys like that who I would say need to come in instead of these rent-a-players or 2-year players. We're paying them millions of dollars and we're getting thousands of dollars in return.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I love the Kyle Tucker part of the equation, and I think it's unlikely because I think it's going to be a giant contract. But I think it's unlikely. I mean, the Royals were in on Santander. It was the 3 years. They were in on Profar. It was the third. The Royals wanted to go 3. The Jays gave Santander 5. Profar, they were in talking 2. The Braves were willing to give him 3. And I think right now with an 80-game PED suspension, we're going, hey, nice job, right? Like, I know I questioned how at this age you're suddenly breaking out, and are you going to pay him for what he did last year? And it looks like the Braves may get burned on that. But they did at least call Juan Soto. I mean, like that was they are trying to get a stadium built. Like, what better way than to go out and grab the biggest free agent that's out there?
Absolutely.
There is, David, a little bit of incentive to do that. That's an off-season solution for sure. And I do think that the door is open. It's not wide open. Maybe it's just a crack, but I think Lesky, I think you're right. I think it's a name they'll kick around because I think he's more than just the production he returns, right? It's a statement to a fan base that you're asking to make a statement to you. Whether you have to vote for it or not, Star Bonds are still Kansas taxpayers. If that's what you end up using for a ballpark or whatever mechanism gets it done, you're asking for a lot of public money, and this would be a way to, create some goodwill there. What about right now, David? If what's the answer if MJ goes out right now?
Yeah, there's not a lot, and that's the problem. It's. You look to the minor league system immediately at this exact moment. That's where you turn. And who are your options in AAA? It's Drew Waters, who hit for the cycle yesterday, by the way, with an inside the park home run that I've been told apparently he was getting a little trouble for not being a legitimate cycle because it wasn't an over the wall home run, which is funny. Joey Weimer, who Had a good end of spring. Hasn't been great to start the year, but he's played 4 games in AAA. I mean, it's not none of this is a big sample for any of them. John Rave, who is kind of a favorite because the numbers have always been good. The problem that I've heard about Rave from the organization is the batted ball metrics just don't look like they'll translate to the big leagues, which is fair, totally fair, because it's hard to look at the offensive numbers in Omaha and put a whole lot of stock in the actual numbers. You got to get beyond them because that park is such a hitter's park that it's a difficult evaluation. And Tyler Gentry, who's had a rough start to the year, Nick Lofton, you could throw in left field probably. He's played some outfield before. I'm just looking at the list right now, but it's not much. There's not a lot. And the problem, as a lot of, there are a handful of teams that are already eliminated, basically. The White Sox, the Marlins, the Rockies. They don't have the pieces to trade. I mean, you can go out and get Luis Robert, I guess, but he's a big question and a lot of money for a big question. It's not. And they're asking for, I don't know if it's a superstar return, but they're asking for a big return for a guy who hasn't really deserved that return yet in his career. He's had that one big year. Marlins don't have anybody. The Rockies, yeah, I'd love to have Brenton Doyle. They're not trading him. I mean, this time of year, it's hard to find those guys. And I don't know, I guess I haven't looked at who is still a free agent. I can pull that up right now.
Verdugo signed, Les mentioned Verdugo. Yeah. I think he signed a minor league deal, and
Adam Duvall is still out there. Maybe they meet the $3 million at this point. I don't know. Or maybe look, the other thing too, put Mark Hanna in left field for a month. The defense isn't great. He gets on base though. Yeah. And I've said this before. I was really surprised that his sprint speed is in line with Michael Garcia and Kyle Isbell. That I generally have a good idea of what stats are out there. I looked at Mark Hanna's sprint speed, and it 27.8 feet per second last year, and Isbell and Garcia are 27.9. It shocked me. I just did not expect him to be there. Maybe you just stick him in left field and go. I would have said give Dairon Blanco some at bats, but he's on the IL now, and I don't think Tyler Tolbert is a guy you want starting necessarily, but. Maybe Canna is the short-term answer overall. That's minor leaguers. If you want some other, David Peralta is still out there. Apparently, I thought he signed a minor league deal, but I guess not. Whit Merrifield is available, and Aaron Hicks is still available. So yeah, a lot of big names.
By the way, I love anytime this gets quoted. Guys, look at your sheets, or I'm going to point to Pete again. The line from Moneyball, where he's like, "Come on, we need to get up to speed here." On that, Curtis says, as I like to say, a trade that hurts. I do think it's getting to that time, and a number of folks have mentioned here today the depth at catching, and I think they're getting some pieces in the farm system, and I think they've even got some pitching that they can put into the mix. So they've got some pieces that they could send for a guy. I think that's probably a trade deadline answer. And is
or
that
at least like June? It's probably not the next 2 months. Yeah.
And is that what it is? Like that's the patience that needs to be there. Not only with MJ Melendez, we can throw Hunter Renfroe in there. He's off to another cold start like he did last year. Now he heated up and had some moments where for a couple of weeks, he was the bat that was really driving the offense for this club. So, and he's got a much more of a successful past, right? To think that, okay, he will get it going eventually. But that's the other thing is it's not really perfect right there either. Is that, look, we've got to just try to work with these guys. Hope Renfroe gets it going. Hope Melendez gets it going less. And then in the back of their mind, it's a quick run for Jack Caglione, and they're going to have him running around the outfield. It's not the plan, because I don't think you want to put that pressure on a guy you haven't even had in your organization for a year. But in the back of the mind, that's their hope. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, I would like nothing more than to see him in that situation. But it's still, I would still like to give him a little bit of time where if you're going to put him in the outfield, then it's a situation where he's got some minor league at bats and he doesn't come up and feel all this pressure. Now, he was in spring training, right? And so as he's in spring training, it's that situation where he knows he's going to the minor leagues. He doesn't have to stress about that. He doesn't have to worry about that. And so, we're in that situation where he's just not stressed out. And the thing I like, I'm gonna revert back real quick to Hunter Renfroe. The thing I like about him, I can stomach Hunter Renfroe for the rest of this season. It's the rest of his contract. I can stomach that because, like you said, Soren, he's got professional experience. He's not super fleet of foot, so he's not going to run down balls in the gap. We saw that in the Cleveland series, but at least he has a good arm. He gets behind balls. He's technical in the outfield, and not a great start. You know, he's every third at bat so far, he's striking out, but at least he gives you a chance. When he's up to bat, I'm not like, oh man, here we go. I'm like, okay, just run into something, give me a good swing. His swings are good. His swings are consistent. So that offers something. But again, I would love to see Jack in the outfield, give him those outfield reps in the minor leagues and go from there. It's just difficult over and over again to see the left field side of things continue to break down. And so, I like the Mark Canha idea for sure. I absolutely love that idea. I had no idea. I am blown away, David. I did not know that. I had no flipping idea that his sprint speed is the same. If you would, I wouldn't even believe that you were suckering me into that bet right now. I would have taken that bet in a heartbeat and lost all my money.
Man, I should have bet you then.
Yeah.
You probably should have. And now I know that since you said you should have bet me, that I'm not going to take any bets from you, of course. So, definitely a frustrating thing. But again, I'll end with this. I go back to that one spot where at the beginning of the podcast, I would rather have all this be exposed now. I can handle a platoon situation. I can handle different things in the outfield. I would even take Jonathan India in the outfield right now. I don't want him there every day, but I would take him there as he learns. We just need to get Rusty Kuntz to come back to teach him like he taught Alex Gordon. That would be fantastic because Rusty's got some cred in this game, teaching guys how to play position. Yeah. So that would be great, and hopefully there's going to be a change soon.
The Torpedo Bat. David, do you think, I'm interested to hear what Les has to say about this, but is this a real thing or is it just, it's not really that big a deal and some guys are hot that are swinging it? What do you make of, what are you hearing from the industry? I know everybody's scrambling to take a look at it and see what it means. And it's they're doing it on the fly here, but is it a real thing? Like it's the future of the game or is it a passing fad?
I think it's somewhere in between. Probably, it as everything is. But I think that the big thing about this is we have so much more data now about where guys, I mean, it used to be you had this and that, and then it grew a little bit. You'd see exit velocity and launch angles. And all of a sudden, and teams have had this for a while, but even public data now shows where they hit the ball on the bat. And so to have that knowledge, why wouldn't you custom build a bat if it's legal? To say, hey, this guy hits the ball here 62% of the time, even though we want him to hit it here 62% of the time. So let's build his bat that way. And it's interesting because I think Hunter Renfroe, and I haven't looked at this, so I could be wrong, but it feels like watching him, he is just missing the barrel so often. And I almost wonder if they can pinpoint where he's hitting the ball more often, maybe the Torpedo Bat turns Hunter Renfroe into an actual weapon. Because, I mean, think about how many times he hits the ball hard on the ground and you go, oh, he just missed launching that ball. Well, maybe if the barrel was 2 inches lower, he would have launched that ball. And the pop-ups and all that, maybe he's a perfect candidate for the Torpedo Bat because I do think there is data to support. I don't think teams are doing it because they're doing it on a whim. And no team does pretty much anything on a whim anymore. So I think there's data to support this new bat. And I think that there are guys who can benefit from it. I don't think everybody benefits from it. I think that certain players really can and certain players don't. I mean, look at the Yankees. A few guys are using it. Aaron Judge is not. He hit 3 home runs with his regular bat the other day. It's not – he's just a good hitter. No, he's not a good hitter. He's a phenomenal hitter. And I think that – so for the right guy, I think it's real. I think for some guys, they're going to try it and it's not going to work. And they're going to maybe get down in the dumps because of it, because, oh, I thought this was a magical elixir and it's not. But I do think there's some credence to it. And I saw something the other day and I don't remember the exact numbers or dates, but I think I saw it was like 10 to 15% of the league is using it today, not just the Yankees. And they imagine it'll be up to 50% by like mid-July, which I think it's fine. Try it. Absolutely. Hitters should try everything. I love a guy who will try something to get out of a slump and to boost their numbers or whatever. But I don't think it's going to be right for everybody. But for a lot of people, I think it will be.
Is it more likely a eureka moment? Maybe it's a duh moment. I mean, last tennis rackets, they've been working on tennis rackets all the time. We've watched them evolve. I don't know how much the hockey stick, that's probably the best, parallel as far as a piece of piece of equipment in sports. But like, do you sit back and go, well, yeah, duh. Why weren't we on this a long time ago? Or do you think that or is it just a mental part of the equation? You think it's going to work, and you take confidence to the plate, and that makes you a better hitter.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm growing in the area of welcoming analytics. I'm still kind of the grumpy old man, get off my lawn kind of thing, where too much of I feel like analytics. I mean, I tore Launch Angle apart back when people were trying to do that. But look, as long David said it, as long as it meets specifications, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how it looks. And if this was some other team that had it and hit all those home runs in the game besides the Yankees, then it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal as it is. It might still be a big deal because it's maybe a drastic visual change. But I mean, the analytics behind it, if you've got guys you're studying like Volpe and some of those other guys that were not making consistent contact, all of a sudden now they're hitting that particular spot. Well, if you can't get their bats quicker, they can't get their foot down quicker, and they can't stay inside the ball and get to the ball faster, but this is working for them, especially in a park is smaller than my high school. And I went to a high school of 300 kids. And so, yeah, why not play your specifications? If you can, Aaron Judge is going to hit home runs everywhere, and some of those other guys will. I mean, you've got Goldschmidt, you've got Bellinger. They're going to launch balls on almost every park they play in. So that's probably more the conversation why they hit 9 home runs in the game. But and I think Dansby Swanson used this bat all of last year, and he didn't have a great year offensively. So I'm saying all that too. It's not the bat, it's the batter. There's some analytics behind it where if guys are not squaring the ball up and it's closer to the handle, then it's a genius move as long as the specifications are still the same. The real issue is that if you've got a guy struggling, he might be struggling because his foot's down late, his timing is off, he's just not hitting well, he's not seeing the ball well, and all of a sudden you say, hey, my analytics show your bat's a little slow, but if you use this torpedo bat, all of a sudden you're going to make better contact. So now you stop thinking about what's wrong with your mechanics, you stop thinking about your batting average, and you go up to the plate and say, you know what, this bat's going to help me. So you're all the peripheral garbage that's going on inside your head mentally is now gone. That was more your problem than anything. And so now you square one ball up on a little more of a fat part of a new bat, and you launch the ball. Now all of a sudden you can't wait to use it. But now even better, you can't wait to get up to the plate to hit. That's where confidence in the mental game will change you. So it's not the bat, in my opinion. It's the confidence that it can create. And yeah, your team, your analytics department is going to get your guys to say, hey, this will help you. And guys that are struggling, they're going to attach themselves to anything. I've been a hitter. I understand that. Using a different bat, not this kind, but a different bat, even though it might not have helped me, because if your mechanics are good, but mentally you're fearful, you're not confident, you're not going to hit. If your mechanics aren't great, but you feel like this bat is the whole new thing, then you're going to be loose, you're going to be relaxed, you're going to be attacking balls in the zone, and then you're probably going to hit. So I think this whole thing is mental. It's not about the bat.
Yeah, hitting is such, I mean, everything, and I'll give credit. I watched the thing, what is it? The kick out slider is the new thing, or kick back slider?
No, the kick change.
Kick change. Yeah, change. I'm sorry. And I was watching this video of like basically an instruction video. I think it's from Tread. And they were talking, and one of the ways, if you get 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes into it, and he's like, listen, if you do this, if you've gone at it for a week or two and it's not working for you, find a different change. And I thought that was it was great, because I think so often, there's something that's coming to the game. There's a new change, and everybody assumes that the whole industry is pushing everyone to it. And for me, that was great to see that. Like, no, we're trying. Like, this change might be the change. Like, you have, Brady Singer, you have not committed to and embraced and loved to change up. Try this one. But a couple weeks into it, it's not something that should take you 6 months. You either have a feel for it or not. And I think everybody's ligaments and tendons and muscles and the physiology is a little bit different. And so I think for some people it's going to click, and for other people it's not. And, I think the people around the game, the baseball factories around the game, they're looking for anything that they can help any player. And I don't think anybody is saying this is a one-size-fits-all fix for everybody, right? There's going to be some guys that's going to help. Yeah, and some guys like Aaron Judge, I guarantee you what his thought is, I ain't messing with what ain't broke.
Don't even talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this one feels good to me. I'm good with this one, and I'm pounding home runs over the wall. There's nothing to worry about here. If you've been in an accident, nothing to worry about if you call our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world: home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations: North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David, let's talk a little bit about the AL Central. They're all 2-4. Right? Like, as we sit and record here, 6 games in, everybody's 2-4, so nobody's losing any ground. This was a division that had 3 playoff teams last year. Has everybody in baseball passed them up, and this is just a bad division, or is it just the ebbs and flows of a season? What do you see early in the AL Central?
I mean, I think it's ebbs and flows more than anything, because teams go 2-4 all the time. You just don't notice it when it's games 95 to 100. So that's part of it. Part of it, they probably overachieved last year a bit because the White Sox helped quite a bit. You know, the Royals, I think it was the Royals, Tigers, and Twins all went 12-1 against them. That's not to say that any of those teams were fraudulent outside of the White Sox, but they all were 11 games over 500 against the White Sox, and all finished 10 games over or less. So, you know, the White Sox are a little bit better this year. Mostly, well, I don't want to. Maybe they're not a little better. They're less bad this year, which is tough to be as bad as 121 losses. But
everybody beat up on them. I mean, that does drag. If the White Sox just pick up 3 games on everybody, that pulls the whole.
That's exactly it. If you go 9-4, which you're very happy going 9-4 against a division opponent, you lose 3 games. You're right, and so I think that's part of it. Is that the divisions, the White Sox have regressed to the mean a little bit, not a lot, but it's also 6 games. I think you look at this division, and it's the same thing we talked about a week ago before opening day. Every team has flaws. The top 4 teams all have flaws, and all have their really strong points. And if you told me on separate occasions on March 27th in the morning, hey, the Twins are going to win. I'm from the future. The Twins are going to win the division. Next guy comes, no, I'm from the future. The Royals are going to win. Next guy comes, I'm from the future. The Tigers are going to win. Next guy comes, I'm from the future. The Guardians are going to win. I can't argue with any of you. And I can't argue with anybody that would say any of those teams have finished in 4th or 3rd or 2nd. So it's a bunch division. I think it's pretty mediocre. It was pretty mediocre last year, honestly. I don't think it was a great division as much as they benefited from the White Sox. And a lot of the Guardians played above their heads, I think. The Tigers, it required they were 34-19, I remember, to finish, because I thought it was interesting that they finished 34-19 and the Royals started 34-19. So that stuck in my head. But at some, they're all these teams, they required a huge stretch of great baseball to get there. The Guardians finished like 2 games over in their last 70 games or something like that. And then they're all average to slightly above average teams that sometimes those teams play above their heads and sometimes they play below their levels. And that's kind of where they are right now. I would guess I had the Royals winning the division with 88 wins. I'm not going to change that after 6 games because that seems silly to me. But 88 wins to win the division is just not that many. And it shows that it's a tightly packed and pretty average division.
Yeah. Here's my favorite stat. Not -12 run differential for the Twins. Everybody's 2-4, of course. -12 for the Twins, -2 for the Royals, -3 for the Tigers, -9 for the Guardians, +4 for the White Sox.
Crazy.
The run differential
Wow.
is best for the White Sox right now. Again, just 6 games in, but it's all we have to work with. Okay. So if they had 70 other games somewhere on a shelf, I'd talk about those 70 games. They have those 6, so we're talking about it. Less to this division take a tumble in the offseason?
I want to say yes. However, when was the last time you really saw a bully in the AL Central just beating up on everybody in the playground? I mean, it's been a long time. And so the Twins will sign somebody to try to get ahead, and the Guardians will try to bolster it and get that one pitcher to bolster an already good pitching group. I just feel like it's the same division. We were talking a little bit earlier about the Royals building a stadium and maybe signing that guy. I feel like that's what it's going to take, a Soto signing for the New York Mets on one of these AL Central teams. The problem is what player of that caliber wants to go to an AL Central team? You know what I mean? I mean, they want to go somewhere like New York or like LA or Chicago on the north side maybe, or something along those lines. And so it's tough sometimes to watch this division. I mean, I love my Royals. It's the one team that gave me the shot of a boyhood dream, and I will always love them. And I still think player for player, potentially the Royals are the best team in this division. And that's not looking through the rose-colored glasses. I feel like player-wise we can have that, but I just feel like there's not a team that has the ability right now to come up and say, okay, we are everybody else is number 2. They're the definite best team in the division. I thought maybe at the beginning of last year that could have been Cleveland, but I feel like they averaged out just a little bit too. So from what I see, it's just the same thing. It's just everybody's trying to be the bully, but nobody can stay on the hill.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you real quick, sir.
Yeah.
So you say that a guy who doesn't want to play in the Central necessarily. That's totally fair. No big markets, all that. Is there an attractiveness as a player to say, hey, I can be a favorite in the division every year because there is no favorite? And so if you're Kyle Tucker, I don't think the Royals are going to sign Kyle Tucker. There's going to be a story in November. The Royals talk to Kyle Tucker and then he signs with whoever. But is there an attractiveness to I can be the guy who puts them over the top, and it's an easier path to the playoffs every year?
That's a great question. And while I was saying that, I was actually even thinking that. So I'm glad you asked that. So I feel like there is, however, it's an aged player, like a Michael Wacha. He could have signed anywhere else. He had a lot of other options, but he liked the pitching staff. He liked the family aspect. And Kansas City's a great place to play. It's a great community. It's great for schools. It's great restaurants. It's all kinds of great. And the traffic isn't bad. The construction stinks, but the traffic isn't always that bad. So it seems like a great place to play. And I would love a young-ish from 30 down, maybe a 24, 25, 28-year-old, even a 30-year-old that still has that big contract left, but wants to take a little bit less or a lot less to stay in a Kansas City where they can be that person. However, I feel like even though you want that, it heaps a lot of pressure on you. When I was in high school and college, if I was that guy that was the top player, statistically, I just didn't do well. I don't know if it was because I just wasn't a good leader or what the situation was, but I felt the pressure a lot more of the expectation of you're the guy, you need to take us to the next level. And then when you don't, it shatters your confidence. It shatters your ability to play every day. Not everybody has the mentality of a Soto out there who he doesn't care where he plays. He's the man. When he walks off the bus, when he walks off the plane, when he walks in the restaurant, when he walks in the bathroom, he's the man. It doesn't matter. So I just feel like a lot of those younger players want a little bit more of a surrounding, that supporting cast. Is Bobby Witt Jr. enough of a supporting cast this early in his career that someone's going to want to come in and say, I'll be the guy, but I also have another guy that can be with me? I just don't think they're there yet. I think they're close, but I just don't think they're there yet because it can put a lot of pressure on it.
I think they got a ballpark that ball players like. I don't know that, if they think they've got that this is one contract and they've got one more contract and they're a hitter, that they want to come and suppress their home run total. So I think that's something you think about when you build the dimensions of the new ballpark. But if once they do get their new park, and assuming they do it right, which I'm with the firms we've got here in town, and I think John Sherman's commitment, I don't think they're going to half-ass this. So assuming they do it right, wherever it goes, I see no reason why Kansas City can't become St. Louis as far as what St. Louis was there for 20 years, because it does what it has going for it is you mentioned all the things like if there's a guy who loves him some New York City, or there's a player from Japan who wants the quickest flight home. No, the Royals aren't going to be able to compete for that. But the Cardinals routinely traded for guys and then kept them there because people got to St. Louis and went, this is pretty cool. You're central, so the travel, which less the travel. I know you didn't do it for 20 years, but it's a bitch, right? In Major League Baseball. And when you're in the middle of the country, that cuts down the travel. And I've talked to a number of guys who like that they don't have to go Seattle to Tampa, and they don't have to go New York to LA. It makes that, travel, better. And so you couple that with hopefully a good ballpark. And I do think, Les, you're right, kind of the guys that are starting to have a family, getting into their 30s, and it's like, I'm not just looking for the most clubs. I think that could very well be the sweet spot of the Royals. Take on a contract that was big 3 years ago when it was signed, but it's kind of becoming more the norm. Maybe even get a club that's in a total rebuild. We'll give you some cash to take it on. And I think this can be a place that players want to come to. Not all of them, but I don't think there's any place that all of them want to go to. And I think it could be a more attractive destination than people realize.
When I'm 25, I don't mind going from Seattle to New York or anything like that. When I'm 30 and I've got 3 kids at home and my wife's at home and I want to see my wife sooner, then I don't want to go from New York to LA, Seattle to Miami. I would rather be centrally located. And that kind of feeds into my Michael Walker point. He's older. He's in his 30s. And so it's easier to want to stay so you don't have to travel as far. You're home quicker. Some of those games maybe your family can even fly into. So, yeah, it's a great point. Travel does play a part of it. I remember, my couple of years with the Royals, I was, 26 and 27 and was just starting my relationship with my wife and just meeting her. Didn't get married until I was 97. By then I was back in the minor leagues. And so, but didn't have kids. So it was easier. So at the end of my career, I didn't want to go up and down, play the whole AAA thing, 4A. And I didn't have kids yet, wanted to start a family. But again, I was 30 and 31. I wasn't 25, 26. And so I think that that's going to make a difference where it's the age thing along with the money.
Yeah, and Terry's right. Consistent playoff contender doesn't hurt either. And I think that fuels the machine for sure. Let's finish with this. Kris Bubic had a great first start. What's the ceiling, David, for Kris Bubic this year? I know we're all optimistic. I'm eager. I he's my breakout guy, and I think a lot of people. I'm not alone on that. The numbers were so encouraging with him out of the bullpen. But what truly should we think is not the expectation? I want to be clear, right? We're going ceiling. So if you say something, if you're like Cy Young, don't everybody say David Lesky or Soren Petro or Les Norman said Cy Young is what's going to happen this year. We're talking about the ceiling for Kris Bubic. What do you think it is now, David?
Yeah, absolute ceiling. It's a borderline 1-2 starter. That's when you can get swings and misses, you can succeed in baseball. It's as simple as that. And his fastball plays. It didn't used to play, but it plays now. He's got the changeup, which I was surprised he didn't use more of on, was it Monday? Yeah, it was Monday he pitched. He didn't even have to go to that. He's got the sweeper and slider are both really good pitches for him. He's added a 2-seamer that he didn't use much. I'm not sure how much he'll use that, but he has pitches that can get swings and misses. And if he's able to go 6 innings consistently, I think what'll happen if he keeps doing what he did on Monday, not exactly that, obviously, that was a great start, but you'll look up at the end of the year and go, wow, Kris Bubic was the 19th best starter in baseball this year. That's a number 1, number 2, 33rd best starter. That's a 2. There are 30 teams. So if you're the 33rd best starter, you're technically kind of a number 2 starter. and I think that's the ceiling for him. I don't think he's going to win a Cy Young. I don't think that's really likely, but I do think that you can look up at the end of the year and he's ceiling wise, he's a 1A with Cole Reagans because again, swings and misses. If you can get swings and misses, you can succeed.
Wes, what do you think the ceiling is?
Yeah, I think potentially, again, not just because of this one start, but because of his health, the way he's mixing up the fastball that tails a little bit with that backdoor curve, backdoor sweeper. I agree with David that I was surprised he didn't use his changeup more. I think it was like 10% or less. I think he used his changeup, which he's got a great changeup. But when you're a 4-pitch pitcher and you have a good changeup, you probably should use it a little bit more. But regardless. I think he could be a potential 15-game winner if he's got some offense behind him. Again, early, I understand that, but I completely agree not to take the easy way out. But I mean, David, all good points right there. That 1A number 2 starter, he could end up being a guy that we're just glad he's in the rotation now. To man, he's probably arguably our best pitcher. I think he has that potential. Anybody that's had the injury that he has always makes me want to pump the brakes just a little bit, like give him a break, take it easy. Let's not just throw him out there and hitch every wagon to him. Let's make sure he did throw a lot of pitches that day, which is a sign that they trust his health. He's put the work in. Everything is good. I just want him to get through a full season without getting injured again, because I feel like that elbow or shoulder can't take another injury like that. And so great start. Want to see him keep building on it, and don't put too much pressure on the kid. Just let him keep throwing.
So you're saying don't talk about a ceiling and being a number 1 starter, like that kind of pressure, like I'm doing right here with this.
Like we all just did.
Soren has ruined Bubich's career.
Just don't talk about him. Act like it's not happening. Okay, just like
his vision is based on movement, guys.
Yeah, every big game is like, well, it's going pretty good. Could you just shut up and let it happen? Don't point it out. Like that's what it all.
Honestly, that was me yesterday during Reagan's start. I'm going, wow, he's thrown 46 pitches through 3, has 7 strikeouts. That's great. I'm not gonna say anything. Because yes, if I put something out there on social media saying he's done really well, I'm gonna ruin him, because we're all idiots. Is the point.
I do think it'll be.
Everybody will remember it.
Yeah, right. I do think it's interesting because I think he had 8 Ks in 4 innings, Bubich, right? Or maybe it was 4 1/3.
Yeah,
and then his last 5 outs or last 6 outs, no strikeouts. I mean, come on, where are the strikeouts? What the hell, man? But he was still getting effective outs, and I thought that was interesting. Was it a case of like he's kind of unleashed something new and they're kind of scrambling and they're going back to the video in between dugouts going, okay, he's doing this different, he's doing that different. And now once they get some video, we'll see, like everybody said, we want to see it come all the way around and see him go a second time. But it does look like he's got an arsenal, right? He seems to be the opposite of Brady Singer in the sense that, and maybe through necessity, because he doesn't have the raw stuff of a Brady Singer, he's embraced the nuances. I think he's pitching like a 34, 35-year-old, a guy who has lost some of his stuff, but has learned all the nuances, knows he's got to spin it in certain situations and embraces that. So maybe that does take down some of the ceiling, because he's never just going to be able to rear back on days he doesn't have it. He's going to kind of get knocked around. But he's
also Lugo. I mean,
yes, and that's what I was going to say. He fits right in with Lugo and Walker. He's kind of pitching, he's advanced. He's operating at a 34-year-old level. Like the kid who reads, little Timmy in the first grade, he's reading at a 5th grade level. Well, that's great. He hasn't reinvented reading,
right.
But he's pitching at a 30-plus-year-old level, but hopefully with an arm that's got, even with the injuries, a little more bounce back to it. The other thing I would add, by throwing that many pitches less, I feel like they're showing some confidence that they feel like we don't have to baby everybody, because we can do this again. This is not a fluke. Like forever. I mean, unfortunately, and I'm sorry, but I think this is true, Danny Duffy and Yordano Ventura were the only successful starting pitchers that this organization developed on the Dayton Moore watch. And so anytime you got one, there was feeling like, oh my God, we got one. Don't let him get hurt. Like maybe we'll just sit him on the side, and when the playoffs get here, we'll pitch him, because we don't have any more coming. To me, it does show that they're like, listen, they're here to pitch. They're going to pitch. And if there is a problem, then we'll go get another one, because we know what we're doing. We can make more of these. You agree that there's some confidence there?
Yeah, I do. Young pitchers throw and older pitchers pitch. And when you get a young kid, and when Bubich came up, he just threw, aired it out and threw, and he was all over the place. I call it like with Carlos Hernandez, it's the same kind of thing. It's when young pitchers are all over the place, they're playing darts with a shotgun. It just sprays every time. You never know where it's going. And so he has learned. You can see that, to your point, that he's pitching. He's not just throwing. And the thing I like about that, too, is a couple of his strikeouts, he does work up in the zone, because with that tailing fastball, sometimes hitters give up on it. And then all of a sudden it's that sweeper, that little curveball that bites in and catches that upper corner of the box for strike 3. And even after a strikeout, he'd turn around when they're throwing the ball around. And he would start kind of, doing this, like, okay, I got to snap that a little more. I got to snap it. So you could tell he is thinking through it. He's getting strikeouts, but he's not like, yeah, I just mowed that guy down. He's like, okay, I need to be better. I need to get the feel of this release point and be able to do that. And so I really appreciate that. I like the way the Royals are handling him, because look, if you check every surgical box, if you check every rehab box, if you check every test that he had to be put through, every inning, every rehab start, every spring training innings limit you're going to put on him, and if he's ready, then don't baby him. Get him out there and let him throw, let him do his thing. I think that we're actually, if he stays healthy, which no reason he shouldn't, then you're seeing what he can be, and yet still build from there. So I think it's for a lot of reasons, it's exciting to see him out there.
It's exciting to have the second edition of Kauffman Corner. Of course, we'll still have Randy and I talking Sunday nights at 9:00. And Randy's extensive travel schedule, you'll probably see these guys popping in there as well. I've seen David in the past. We'll lean on less. But every Friday, 8:30 a.m., that's the plan right now. You never know. Life happens. We might tweak it. We might change it. But right now, I said Friday, every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. is the plan for our second edition each week of Kauffman Corner. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button, that subscribe button, that love button, whatever button that's a positive. Don't cost nothing, but it helps us out. And of course, always support our great sponsors like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. If you have a question about your insurance, give David and his crew a call, just like I did. Call 816-781-7331. When it comes to your parking lot, don't have a parking lot creates bad first impressions. Focus on your business. Don't worry about liability out there. Let Gann Asphalt and Concrete give you a perfect parking lot. Call 816-44-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. And if you've been hurt in an accident, Northland Injury Law has got you covered. They're Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Les Norman, for David Lesky, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kauffman Corner podcast.